VGMP.
Hello everyone and welcome to a special edition of VGMP DLC, the special weekly series where we talk about video game adaptations too small to have their own full-length episode dedicated to them. And today it is my pleasure to say that we are talking about Bright Falls, the prequel miniseries to the original Alan Wake from way back in the year 2010. This is made by Microsoft with some input from Remedy, although Remedy were actually very busy making the game itself at the time this was produced. This was made late into the production of the game, so they were basically in their crunch period.
Oh, right, okay.
And this didn't have any direct Remedy involvement, but things were cleared with Remedy before they were filmed. And the makers of the film were given, quote, most of the Alan Wake game, but not all of it, because literally not all of it was ready at the time.
Right.
This originally consisted of 6 5 to 10 minute episodes.
Yes, I believe so.
But we've watched it in a sort of compiled format where it's all been edited into one continuous
So I
thing.
did that edit,
Right.
just so you know. So the only thing that's cut is the credits at the beginning and end of every episode.
Right.
So I haven't cut any of the actual content.
No.
It's just that otherwise you'd be watching the...
Credit 6 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently there's a load of Easter eggs hidden in the credits.
Oh, shit, sorry.
Which change in every episode.
I did think that because the intro, and they don't play it in the pilot, to be fair, it looks like a man walking up to the lake through the woods. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the problem is because this is early 2010, the video streaming quality is garbage.
Yeah.
They haven't uploaded a higher resolution version, so it's all a little bit plasticky, it's compressed, so you can't really see those details anyway.
Yeah.
But as a fan of the games, you probably would have seen more than I did. I just assumed it was the same shit over and over, so cut it.
According to the Alan Wake wiki, it's different in every episode.
Right, we can watch it.
I'm not really fussed.
I've got the series as well.
It's just little Easter eggs.
Sure.
Yeah, I think probably the fact that this is A, low budget, and B, owned by Microsoft, who no longer actually own the rights to Alan Wake, I don't think there's any impetus for Microsoft to ever upload a higher quality version of this ever now.
No, Remedy certainly won't, unless for some reason they buy the rights back, but I honestly don't think Sam Lake is bothered.
No, so they own the rights to Alan Wake now, but I don't know if that includes this.
I think this would have been owned by Microsoft because it's a production they funded, and it's actually not even called, like, I've named it Alan Wake Bright Falls in my own catalogue, but it's just called Bright Falls. Yeah. So it could be taken as its own unique property, despite obviously clearly being set in the Alan Wake universe.
Yeah. So this is a very David Lynch-inspired piece.
Pretentious, you can say pretentious.
Yeah. Well, it wants very hard to be Twin Peaks, which arguably the first Alan Wake also did. The first Alan Wake was very, very heavy on Twin Peaks references. It moved away from that for the second one. Basically, this is the story of a journalist who comes to town to interview Dr. Emil Hartman, who is a psychologist, for a book that he's writing. And while he's in Bright Falls, he experiences some weird shit that eventually it transpires this is the dark presence overtaking him. Now, I'm not entirely sure that to someone who hasn't played Alan Wake, that would be at all clear, because it was barely clear to me.
No, this series does basically nothing to establish itself. It assumes you've played the game, but as far as I'm aware, this came out before the game,
Exactly.
So even in that sense, it's badly
That's what
considered.
I was going to say. It would make sense if the game had come out first and then they released this and were like, well, it doesn't matter if everyone doesn't get it because it's just for fans. That would make at least a modicum of sense. But because this came out first, and I guess the idea was that you were supposed to watch this and then lead into playing Alan Wake, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, unless I'm guessing it was because Remedy was so desperate, because the whole of Alan Wake 1 was all marketed on mystery.
Yeah.
You didn't have any idea I had no idea there was a dark presence in it when I bought it.
Sure.
Literally all I knew about Alan Wake 1 at the time I bought it, and I had watched a lot of the trailers because it was one of those few times where I was looking forward to a game coming out.
Yeah.
All you knew was Ryder and his wife go to this resort in the Pacific Northwest. They have a fight. She falls into a lake, and then he wakes up.
Sam Lake.
Yeah. Then he wakes up, a week's gone by, he has no memory of what's happened in that week, and he keeps finding pages of a book that he has supposedly written, and it reads like him. When he reads it, he's like, yeah, this is my style of writing, but he does not remember ever writing it.
Right.
And then as the game goes on, the things he reads in the book, in the pages he's finding, start to come true.
Right, okay.
And that was all it was marketed on, because they were really desperate. To be honest, they probably hamstrung themselves a little bit, because being a bit more open, the game might have sold a bit better, but they were so intent on playing the cards close to the vest.
So, okay, let's go over some vital stats on this, and then we can delve in proper. So, this was filmed in 1 week, in February 2010. That shows. I'm going to be honest. There's some good shots in this, don't get me wrong, but the lack of time really shows. The exterior of the Timberline Lodge that they used for this is also the exterior of the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, which is a nice little callback. And the scenario of a distracted driver hitting a deer is also referenced in Max Payne 2 in the track Poets of the Fall.
No, the band is called Poets of the Fall.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So the band Poets of the Fall have worked on, I think, every...
Oh, is that not a fake band?
No. Poets of the Fall is a real band from Finland.
Right.
And the lead singer went to school with Sam Lake, I think it was, or college with Sam Lake.
Right.
They have worked on every single Remedy game since Max Payne 2, including Control, where they are the band that they provide the music for the level called Ashtray Maze, which a lot of people really like. I most know them as, within the Alan Wake universe, they are the fictional band Old Gods of Asgard,
right,
who sing Herald of Darkness.
Right. So yeah, just a line that they use is, in our headlights, beer cans, deer's eyes. That's all I've really got on Bright Falls as far as trivia I could find.
Well, it's essentially a forgotten piece of media. I love Alan Wake, and I had no idea this existed until late last year.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I could have lived without it.
Yeah,
it's not.
I'm glad I've seen it now. It certainly isn't essential. It's not like, oh, if I haven't seen Bright Falls, I won't understand the game.
It doesn't even. Like I don't even think it gives you enough that you could play it and it give you a new context for the game, because that would have been cool.
No, I agree. It actually works better even though you're meant to see this first, i.e. this came out first, it actually works better having played the game first, because at least then I can look at it and I can go, yeah, this is the sort of imagery I'm expecting. Like, the location looks great. Obviously, there's all the little things that I benefit from, where I get to see it and go, that's in the game.
Yeah.
It's beyond that, there's not really much to it, and I was surprised to see the director, who, fair play to him, he's managed to make that in a week. Fair play. I'm not sure I could do better in a week. I saw an interview where he's talking about wanting to do a sequel to this, and it's a bit like, really? Like, what would your sequel be?
Brighter Falls.
To this? Like, do you know what I mean, though? Alan's in the story now. Alan's who I'm interested, and from the reaction half the fan base had to introducing a new playable character in Alan Wake 2, a lot of people ain't going to stand for stuff that's not got Alan in it, because people went mental over Saga Anderson being introduced in the second.
Some of that seemed like to be a bit sexism.
Oh, it's sexism and racism. Because people are sat there going, it's called Alan Wake 2 and he's barely in the game. I think he's in slightly more than she is, to be honest, but at worst it's 50-50. It is no different to Resident Evil 2 having Leon and Claire as playable characters.
Yeah.
It's no different, really.
As someone who hasn't played the games, this is bollocks, this series. And I don't mean that in so far as I didn't appreciate what it was doing. It literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that add up. You basically figure out that the main guy driving in, the journalist guy, he's losing his mind. He starts to figure out that he keeps waking up. He goes to bed, he wakes up in the middle of the forest. Someone fresh in the town has been murdered. And so he films himself, gaffer tapes himself to the fridge, and, records himself when he goes to sleep. And the next morning he wakes up in his flat and it's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And he looks at the footage and he basically, as he slept, ripped the fridge apart. Smashed the entire room up and then went out and, did something. He also ends up assumedly murdering his female friend, but we don't get a resolution to that. The finale of this is he gets involved in a crash trying to drive out of the town, and just disappears. And then you've just got a bunch of police combing the streets as I think it's Alan Wake
and then
himself.
Alan and his wife drive up. Yeah.
Did that happen in the game, that as they approach Bright Falls, there was a crash or an incident of some kind? Is that referenced in Alan Wake?
No, it's not. There is a place where it could fit into the timeline. So Alan Wake starts with you on the ferry sailing in over the river with your car, and then you drive to the Oh Dear Diner, and then there's sort of a skip between you picking up the keys to the cabin you're staying in and them arriving at the cabin. So what we can assume there, so it can fit, it doesn't break the timeline, because you can say, right, that's them on their way to the cabin, so they've already done the start of the game, and gone and picked up the keys, and then on their way to the cabin they stop and see that.
Yeah.
You didn't need it, though. It is just there so that they can go, look, Alan's here, it's Alan.
You see him only, I think, once before, which
Twice.
is on a... Oh, you see him on a TV screen during
once
news report.
Once where the press are having a go at him because he's kicked off. That is canon, that he famously has a violent temper.
Right.
And you see him earlier on, Rose, the waitress, is watching an interview of his.
Right.
Again, it's only a blink and you miss it, like 10 seconds she's watching him on her laptop screen.
Yeah.
Like I said, it wants so badly to be David Lynch, and I usually find people who, touch wood, and this is a taste thing, but when I talk to indie filmmakers, usually one of the worst things they can do that guarantees for me that I know they're going to just make a bunch of bollocks is talk to me about how much they want to be like David Lynch.
Yeah.
Because usually people who want to be like David Lynch
don't understand it.
End up being a very cheap imitation of David Lynch.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, the same is true with Tarantino. A lot of people who say they want to be like Tarantino end up being cheap imitations of Tarantino. The thing is, and Lord help me, don't kill me, I'm not entirely convinced that actual David Lynch is the genius people claim he is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying he definitely isn't, because I haven't seen a lot of his films yet.
Sure.
But of the ones I've seen and the interviews I've seen with him, I think he just deliberately stays vague on everything so that he seems mysterious.
Yeah.
But actually, he's
doesn't
just
have
full
any
of
answers
shit.
either. Yeah. What I would say about this as well, how many of the characters are from the games? Because there's obviously Alan Wake and his wife, and his wife's right at the very end.
Yeah.
There was the cop that you said
there
about.
was a handful. Not the journalist or his friend. They are not their original characters.
She seems to be dead by the end anyway.
Yeah. Admittedly, I liked that. I thought that was really cool how we don't have to see her getting like violently bludgeoned to death or anything.
Yeah.
We just see him say, I'm not in control. We snap cut. And her shoe is in the footwell.
Yeah,
with a spot of blood on
She's
it.
driving, isn't she?
Yeah.
He's looking at her. He goes, I don't think I'm in control. It cuts back to what should be her, but he's now driving.
Yeah, which does really disconcert you.
Yeah.
And you're like...
Yeah, and then when he looks, he's like, why am I in the driver's seat, basically? Yeah. She's not there, but her shoe is in the footwell, and there's a bit of blood on it.
That's a good low-budget way of doing that.
Yeah.
Because nothing looks worse than low-budget violence, where it's just really obvious that you can't have it properly choreographed and shit.
The problem is nothing happens in this. Events happen, but they happen mostly off camera.
Yeah.
So, essentially, you're just watching a bunch of people being like... I don't know if this is the style, because I haven't watched Twin Peaks, but everyone's really boring. Like, there is no characters in this.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, in order to be weird... Just, like, talk slowly and stare.
Yeah.
The thing is, everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
So, if you had one character do it, it'd be like, oh, that character's a bit offbeat.
Yeah.
But because everyone's doing it, it's like, all of a sudden, having emotion makes you the weirdo.
Yeah. The bits that worked for me... Rose is from the game.
Right.
The waitress. And to be honest, she was one of the best things in the series for me. Because she actually was acting.
Yeah.
Rose is in both games, Alan Wake 1 and 2. She is obsessed with Alan. I will admit, I got a chuckle that she's got the cardboard cutout. That is literally in the game. That exact cardboard cutout is in the game. And when Alan walks in and sees it, he's like, oh God. Oh, God. And the cardboard cutout does make a reappearance in Alan Wake 2 as well.
Excellent.
In Alan Wake 1, Rose is a waitress. She absolutely loves Alan. and the Dark Presence comes to get her as a way to get to Alan.
They're coming to get you, Bob.
Yeah. So there's a thing in Alan Wake where you can be touched by the Dark Presence, which means it doesn't overtake you, but it sort of influences you, and then you do become zombie-like, where you're just like, hi, yes.
Is that what is meant to be with the townsfolk?
Some of them maybe, but it wouldn't explain all of them.
Yeah.
She then turns up in Alan Wake 2, and in Alan Wake 2, where she's kind of recovered from being touched by the darkness, but it's clearly still affected her because she's fucking loopy as hell in Alan Wake 2, and like keeps flipping between emotions.
Right, okay.
Pat Main, the radio DJ who you hear, is in both games as well.
Okay,
he's actually the first person. He's the first townsperson Alan Wake meets on his way into town. And the only other real one is, as we said, Deputy Mulligan is in the game as well. He's in both. I can't remember if the other Deputy Thornton is in both or only in the second one. But basically, those are two characters who I think some people have a problem with in Alan Wake 2, because there's a bit of a conspiracy at the minute that Alan Wake 2 was influenced by woke politics thanks to a company called Sweet Baby, who are consultants who get hired to work on games. In Alan Wake 2, Thornton and Mulligan suddenly become like racist cops.
Right.
Like, it's clearly a take on what happened to George Floyd.
Like the Black Lives Matter stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a bit where you overhear them talking about, because obviously Saga Anderson is black.
Yep.
And they walk in and a bunch of people are dead, and it's been the first like supernatural thing to happen. And obviously they're like, no one's going to believe this. And those two are basically to each other are like, well, no one will believe her because it's us against her, sort of thing.
Right.
And then they end up being possessed by the Dark Presence anyway, and you fight them in a boss fight. Actually one of the better boss fights of the game.
Do they ever meet a black character in the first game that would show a contrast?
There are no black characters in the first Alan Wake.
Oh dear.
Other than the ones possessed by darkness.
Oh, good.
There is literally, I'm just racking my brain now, I am 99.9% sure there is not a single ethnic minority in the first Alan Wake game. Because, now to be fair, I'm going to defend them slightly. It was 2010. It's set in the Pacific Northwest, which is one of the most white parts of America.
Right.
And it's made by Finland, by a Finnish company, and Finland itself is a very white country. It's cool seeing those. Oh, and sorry, Emil Hartman is from the game as well.
Who was Emil Hartman?
He's the doctor that the guy's gone to visit. In fact,
in the horrible cardigan.
Yes, which he also has the horrible cardigan in the game.
Right.
And I'll give him this, that location, spot on to the game, with the massive brick chimney in the middle.
Do you think it was a set, or...?
I don't know. I don't know if they went and... Because it's very possible Remedy based that place on a real place. Remedy do that a lot.
Yeah.
What's off-putting in this game is, with the exception of Alan, because they probably knew they couldn't get away with it with Alan, Remedy do that photogrammetry thing.
Yeah.
Where all the characters are based on the real actors who play them.
Yeah, Yakuza does that.
Yeah, but none of those actors except for Ilkavilli are in this.
Right.
And the reason for that is they're obviously all played by Finnish actors, because Remedy do that in Finland.
Yeah.
With just American voices dubbed over.
Yeah.
But it obviously wasn't worth flying actors all the way to America.
So then he flew Ilkavilli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, I wouldn't be surprised if they just shot Ilka's scenes in Finland and spliced him in, because he doesn't really interact with anyone.
No, he's on one news report, he's on
one talk show, and then he drives his car up at the end.
Yeah, so
and the cop who talks to him, you don't even see their mouth.
Right, yeah.
To be honest, I bet you Ilka's scenes were all shot in Finland.
Yeah, probably.
But Emil Hartman's an interesting character, because he's in the first Alan Wake. He is the reason they go to Bright Falls, because he's a psychiatrist who specialises in helping artists get over blocks. So Alan's wife signs Alan up. He thinks he's just going on holiday, but his wife signed him up with Dr. Hartman.
Right.
But Dr. Hartman, it turns out, is actually a scumbag who gets off on influencing writers' creative processes, and then in his head takes credit for their work. In that game, that building gets destroyed by the Dark Presence, and you actually don't see Hartman again after that. Alan moves on and the game kind of forgets him. It was a bit of a loose plot thread, until you fast forward to 2019, and that motherfucker turns up in Control...
Right.
As a boss, and the darkness has got him and mutated him into this, like, hideous thing. It's really cool.
So he's not in 2 then, I'm guessing.
No, he's dead by 2. Yeah. Jesse Faden kills him. I'm going to say the things I liked about the film.
Sure.
So I did like Rose. I did think it was very funny that she'd got the cardboard cut out, and I did think it was the right type of weird they were going for when he gets in that canteen and they all start singing happy birthday to him, even though it's not his birthday, and he's like, what the fuck? If they'd have gone down that route more, that sort of kooky weirdness, I'd have been more into it.
I think so, yeah.
I do love, fair play to them, I'll give them this, the way they've done the darkness taking him at the end. Wonderfully creative.
Oh, brilliant shot, yeah.
It starts as the reflect, so his car skids to a halt, he's like breathing heavy behind the thing, and in the reflection of his windshield is the tree canopy overhead and the slight split of sunlight, and that starts to move as if he's driving, but he's not.
And it's speeding up as well.
And then it starts to flow more like the light's a river.
Yeah.
And then the canopy comes closer and closer and closer, and it gives the illusion that darkness is filling the car.
Yeah.
And then when it fades back down,
he's gone.
You've got no budget. That's what. Even if you had a budget, I prefer doing that way to a massive CGI fucking like tidal wave of darkness comes up and gets him.
It was you know what? It probably was quite simple as well. They just shot the car on location, had him sit there for a while, doing the whole like lying there, breathing, whatever. Then get him out of the car, just film the car with no one in it. And then in post-production, what you do is you do an overlay on the windshield of the canopy. You shoot the canopy, or you fake it with CGI, whatever it is you do, because it doesn't need to be high resolution, because it's just shadow and light.
Yeah.
And then you just overlay that, make it semi-transparent, bring that in. You've got yourself a phenomenal transition that I have to hand that to this production. That transition is incredible.
Yeah, I was really happy with that.
And again, I don't think it required much budget. No. And it didn't require much time. It just required.
Like they had either of those.
Yeah, they just had to be creative.
Yeah,
and I wish they'd done more things like that. They do it a few times in this, to be fair, with how they cut certain things, but a little bit more creativity. Yeah, I think
there was another good transition they did. Not as good. That was the best one.
Yeah,
there was another one where something faded into the water, and I don't remember what it was.
Oh, I don't remember.
They were looking at something, and then it faded into the water, and then like a deer's head floats up through it.
Oh, I missed that bit.
But yeah, anyway. If there's nothing more specific to say about this particular miniseries...
I haven't got anything else to say, no.
I want to just talk for a quick minute about these tie-in miniseries in general.
Sure.
Because this isn't the first thing to ever do that.
And it won't be the
last. But I do find, and obviously I love Alan Wake, and I'm glad I've seen this, but I generally find that they never add much value to the actual thing. We watched the Far Cry 3 one.
Yeah.
And it was an okay watch, like it was entertaining. Yeah. But beyond introducing you to the main villain, it bears absolutely no impact on the game Far Cry 3.
I wonder if the reason for that is they're often done by, like this was, not done by the studio themselves per se, and they weren't part of the concept. It's basically
an afterthought.
It's usually, I think, the publisher going, well, I think we could market this better with this series. They have to get okay from the developers, but the developers don't have the time to focus on it, because it's like, well, you do that shit, we're busy with the game.
It just gets outsourced to someone.
Yeah, so they'll get like a rough story beat of what the game's meant to be, write a script roughly around that. Oh, but you can't give away any plot details.
Yeah.
You can't give away this. So what you end up with is always nebulous, like this is. It's nebulous, pointless, you can live without it.
Doesn't commit to anything in case it fucks something up.
No, and insofar as that, Bright Falls does not stand on its own.
No.
It actually doesn't really stand with Alan Wake either. It's just content.
Yeah.
It's not a product, it's content.
Content for content's sake.
Yeah.
Halo Forward Unto Dawn had the same problem. Now, we liked Forward Unto Dawn, the second half of it.
Yeah.
But realistically, did you need to see it? It doesn't impact the Halo franchise at all.
Very similar to this. It's about a character who, in Halo 4, is at most a side character talking head that you see at the bottom of the screen now and then.
Yeah.
He's not like, it's not like it's Master Chief, even though Master Chief is in it. It's not like it's his backstory.
Yeah.
It's not like it's about someone super impactful. It's one of the talking heads that goes, "Hey, Master Chief, I think we need to burst into the breach." It's going, oh, what's his backstory?
Yeah.
And the reason we're focusing on that twat is because, let's be honest, if you focused on the background of Master Chief, people would either go spare or they go, "Oh, no, don't, that's what the games are for."
Yeah.
But the games never fucking do it on Halo.
Or there's too much chance that you accidentally break the continuity.
Yeah.
Because people have said, and we're going to talk about this more on another episode, it's been said before, that's why Resident Evil is not doing long-form storytelling anymore.
Yeah.
It's just doing villain of the game episodes.
Yep.
And it's because Resident Evil doesn't have an overarching writer, unlike Sam Lake writing both Alan Wake games plus American Nightmare. It's a different writer for every game. Anyway, I don't think there's anything more to say about Bright Falls.
No, I wouldn't recommend it, quite honestly.
No,
I was bored with this.
Yeah.
I've seen it twice and I didn't enjoy it either time.
Yeah. If you're a hardcore Alan Wake fan, it's a little curiosity that's worth checking out, but don't feel like you need to. It doesn't drastically alter the games at all. I feel like it's a bit like the tie-in novel. I've never read the tie-in novel because it's actually really hard to get now.
Oh, okay.
Apparently it does add a little bit of extra info to the first game, but
this doesn't.
No, but apparently it's really hard. Well, I've looked for it, and because they only did a limited print run, you can only buy it used.
Right.
Because it's limited, people are charging quite a lot for copies of it.
Yeah.
If you're a hardcore fan, fine, seek it out. It's free on the internet now. You don't have to pay for it. But honestly, it's nothing special, and I wouldn't waste your time seeking it out if you're not super, super, super into Alan Wake, to be honest.
Cool.
Anyway, thank you for tuning in to another DLC episode. Please sit back, open your ears, and enjoy this preview of our next VGMP. This summer, it's time for the most epic battle in podcast history. From VGMP, Jamie and Rory will go 2-on-1 with Raging Ball himself as they review the awful Blood Rain. Blood Rain! Starring Kristana Loken, Udo Kier, Ben Kingsley, a bunch of other people nobody could possibly give a about. Oh, that's right, a guy whose only contribution to pop culture was he did a dance in Reservoir Dogs. It's time to talk Blood Rain.